Welcome, everybody, to Education Reclaimed, a podcast for teachers looking to reclaim their passion in education. Presented by the amazing people at Live Bearded. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Education Reclaimed, reclaiming passion for all educators. Once again, I am Brett Colley.
I'm Chad Pettit.
And welcome to episode 1. Chad, we got this off the ground, dude. Episode 1, how you feeling?
We're really doing it, buddy.
Why?
Man, I'm excited about this season. This has been a passion project that has been brewing for a really long time. And, we're teachers, so even in the summer, we don't have time.
No, and see, that's a huge common misconception that I really hope we touch on somewhere down the line of teachers. You have summer breaks off, blah, 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 blah. They really have no idea what goes into our summer breaks.
Not a clue. I have been working the entire summer. I'm finishing up summer school next week, and then I roll immediately into 2 workshops and then go right back to school for in-service.
Ew. That sounds exciting.
Indeed. Lots of ew. Lots of ew.
There's a whole lot of ew, and I don't know where that really came from. Oh, my goodness, man. So how's life down in Texas?
Well, I am actually melting. My feet are part of the floor now, even in the air conditioning. It is 100 and give up degrees.
You've hit that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is why you should have never left the Northwest, brother.
I'm telling you, man.
I know.
At least maybe I should get a house out there, but I'm a teacher, so I can't.
We can barely afford the houses that are out here as it is. Holy cow.
Yeah. I like debt. It's fun.
I know, isn't it? No.
Not at all.
The first thing I think we need to tell the people is, how did you and I meet, man? I mean, because you're in Texas, I'm out in Washington State. How did we land here on Education Reclaimed?
Yeah, so that's what's crazy. Like, I feel like we're really good friends, and we have never met in person. That's what's really crazy. Like, and that's TikTok. People don't realize the TikTok teacher community is pretty amazing.
It is. It really is. I've met a lot of really great people off there, and you were the first person that really made me realize that it's not full of a bunch of people just flaunting their assets, for better terminology, but there's actually some good spirited people out there.
Yeah, it's a good thing you don't have to dance on TikTok, because I never would have made it.
No.
Unless Goofy White Guy is a dance people want to watch.
I mean, they need to remake White Men Can't Jump and name it White Men Can't Dance, because let's just be honest.
Let's just say it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, I can't remember the exact, like, who tagged who met in the first video or whatever, but, like, it seems kind of organic. You liked my videos, I liked your videos, and then next thing you know, we're talking back and forth, and we ended up with each other's phone numbers, and we ended up on a couple podcasts together, and now you won't, like, stop stalking me.
No. Well, I mean, it's the beard. I mean, let's just be honest.
It is, well, yeah. The curse.
The curse of bearded men, I tell you. I mean, that's why we started.
Actually,
that's why we started the BTAA.
Yeah, that was the big thing. And that was what really got things going. The Bearded Teachers Association of America, which was your idea.
That was
genius, I might say.
And your videos made that thing pop, dude. It was hilarious. And people still like, for those of you who are listening and watching on YouTube, if you have a TikTok, you need to go follow this young lady too, Serotonin Baby.
She's amazing.
She's hilarious, and she is a adjunct member of the BTAA. And every time I go into a live with her, she goes, BTAA for life. I'm like, she gets it.
She gets it. Yeah. So I had one video of me doing a beard transition, and she duetted it with a filter beard.
Oh, yes.
And I died because she nailed it.
Oh, it was 100% on point. I mean,
yeah. I think we need to bring back the Beard Lord.
I think the Beard Lord does need to come back. I think the BTAA comedy videos have been far too gone.
Yes, we need to restore that. Let's reclaim that. While we're reclaiming education, let's reclaim our Beard Lord, our BTA comedy.
Put that flag back on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, guys, TikTok is not just a place for people who are showing off assets. It actually has generated quite a few friendships across the board. I mean, and I'm thankful for this one. That's why I stalk the man. I mean, he's worth stalking. So
It's mutual stalking. I'm actually outside your house right now.
I thought I saw your car. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy that you didn't sense the beard's presence.
there was a disturbance in the beard force.
Indeed, indeed.
Indeed. Well, so let's go ahead and just kind of jump right into the premise. What is it that Education Reclaim is all about? Why did you come up with this idea? And yes, this was his idea, folks. I'm just here for comedic effect.
So, Education Reclaim, the whole premise of the show is reclaiming our passion and joy for education, for teaching. And let's just go ahead and say it. The 21-22 school year, going back to the 2021 school year,
Mhm.
the last couple of years have been hell in
Yeah.
teaching. And it has been really hard for everybody, students, teachers, administrators, parents. It's just been hard.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I was like, man, like more and more our voices are being silenced as educators. Decisions are being made that control us, and we don't have a say in them. More and more things are dictating what we do inside the classroom, what we do outside the classroom. You know, a lot of teachers, especially down here in the South, you've got to be really careful what you post to social media and things like that. And I got tired of just seeing so many people discouraged and walking away, this mass exodus. There's an entire hashtag on TikTok dedicated to teacher quit talk,
Right.
which, no disrespect, no shame. I totally understand those people leaving. I get it. And so no shade whatsoever. But at the same time, there are some of us who want to stay. And I think a lot of people that left wanted to stay too. It's just the burnout took over.
Well, the
And
extenuating
so,
circumstances that come from a lot of, district pressure and administrator pressure that they were looking for as teachers were starting to come out of the pandemic teaching. I mean,
yeah.
I can't even imagine, to be completely honest with you. I mean, our district handled it pretty well, but that's just my small little district out here. So,
Yeah, it's been murder. And I teach in one of the largest districts in the state of Texas, and we have a huge teacher shortage. I mean, even right now, it's even worse. So, like last year, we started off 200 teachers down in the district,
wow.
200 teachers down. Yeah. And so, when you have that many teachers gone, people retiring in the middle of the year, people quitting in the middle of the year, subs not showing up, subs quitting.
Yeah.
It's an impossible situation. But at the same time, there are certain things you can do. So I'm in therapy, right? I have all sorts of mental health issues. I'm open about it because our generation hasn't been open enough about it.
True, absolutely.
And so, yeah, it's shameful, especially for men. Like,
Yeah.
we just don't talk about it, right? And so I'm trying to change that narrative. And I was sitting in a therapy session, and the specialist said something to me that changed everything for me. She said, when everything else is falling apart, you can at least reclaim your breath. And I thought about that, and it stuck with me. She said, you can stop. You can reclaim it one breath at a time. Now reclaim the next breath. And so it led to this thought process of, okay, I can reclaim my breath. Now what else can I reclaim? Okay, I can reclaim this moment. And there are things you can do as a teacher, So it goes this fight or flight thing. You familiar with fight or flight?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So when you get into a stressful situation, you're either going to run from it or you're going to attack. And I think for the past couple of years, teachers have been in fight or flight mode with no pause, no way to get away from it. And we came into the 21-22 school year thinking it's going to be great. And on day one, we realized, oh no, it's not going to be great. And everything changed, and we're right back in that fight or flight, and we've never had the time to disconnect. And so what we've got to do is stop, reclaim our breath. Now what can I do? And for me, things like rearrange the desks in my room, clean off the whiteboard, small things, get myself organized, clear my email inbox, one thing at a time, just reclaim it one thing at a time. It's one breath at a time, one thing at a time. So that's where the idea for the show came along. And then you and I just being great friends, checking on each other all the time. And you mentioned we should do a podcast together. And I was like, this is perfect, because I was really getting overwhelmed,
Right.
Figuring out how am I going to handle all this by myself. And that's one of the things you've got to do. You've got to, okay, if I'm being overwhelmed, is it worth it? And so you coming on board took a lot of that pressure off, and I think we're going to be a great team.
Hey, I like it. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, reclaiming breath. When you told me that when we were talking about the premise of the show, it really kind of hit home. So it's an amazing concept. And you're right. I mean, what things can we do within the classroom as we're sitting there? And I'm a huge, like, I will reorient my desks every couple weeks, just to kind of get a semblance of normalcy. It's crazy.
It is, and the small things. It's crazy how those little things go such a long way. But you know, you're more at peace in a clean house. Like just after you've just cleaned the house, or you just wash your car or something like that. You
Right.
kind of have that restored feeling. You take a shower, you feel refreshed. It's the same concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man. Yeah, this is going to be fun. And you know what? I want to start off, Chad. I have a bunch of questions that I want to ask you. You all right with that?
Fire away.
All right.
Fire away, man.
The first one I want to ask you is why teaching? What brought you into the teaching field?
Well, I couldn't do anything else. No, I'm kidding. So I was in the army for 10 years, and then when I got out of the army, I was lost. I didn't know what to do with my life, and so I bounced around a couple careers. Um, I spent 6 years as a CNC machinist working a lathe in a factory, which is great work. It's necessary work, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like I was doing. I wasn't feeling my purpose,
Okay.
and I wasn't sure where to go. And I've always wanted to be a writer, and so I decided to go back to school. I was about 33. I went back to college and I started initially going for mechanical engineering. Mistake, man. Turns out you need math and science.
Ew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neither of which I can do.
No.
I do not have a growth mentality when it comes to math and science. And that's a failure on my part. I got to work on that. But I realized quickly that I was drowning, and so my wife was like, "Well, this isn't what you're passionate about. So why are you even doing this?" So I changed my major after a come to Jesus moment, and I changed my major to English. And then as I was sitting in those classes, I noticed this phenomenon of high school graduates, recent high school graduates, adults, you name it, everybody in those college classes struggling to write, and the professors having to spend their time rather than dealing with the content, dealing with this is how you write a basic paper.
Mm.
And I thought, this is not when we should be dealing with this. This should be this is a prerequisite. It's actually listed as a prerequisite when you sign up for the course. So my mentality at the time was complain about it or do something about it. And so I decided to become a teacher. I've always enjoyed educating people in the army when I was training people, anytime in the shop when I got to train new people on the machines. I like teaching. I enjoy educating. And I think it's sort of something that comes naturally to me. And so I thought, let's marry up my passions for writing with my passions for educating. And that's how I became a teacher.
I love it. And, it's one of those things. I love how you brought up the fact of the age-old adage of that I can't stand. Those who can't do teach.
Oh yeah, it's such a lie.
I can't with that anymore. It's no. That's for a whole nother day though, honestly.
Another day, another topic, another rant.
That should be an episode. An all rant episode. I like it.
Yeah.
To you, Chad, what's the best part of being a teacher?
It is definitely the moment when the student gets it. Some people call it an aha moment. Somebody might call it when the light bulb comes on, whatever you want to call it. But when the student gets it and starts really thriving, that's what it's all about. And just connecting with students and helping them unlock their potential. Because I don't feel like I'm putting potential in them. I feel like I'm unlocking the potential that's already there.
Right.
That to me is, you can't put a price on that.
No. So, on the other hand, what's one of the greatest obstacles in your mind of being a teacher?
When the students don't get it. There are some students that just, no matter what you do, you can't reach them. And it's always something that guts me,
Yeah.
You talk to them, you try different methods, and you feel like I haven't done enough. What did I do? What could I have done better? That one student that slips between the cracks, which sounds really cliche, but and I think there's so many things in the way in public education, the way it is right now. So much paperwork, so much red tape, so much bureaucracy that it makes it difficult for us to reach that student. But we still take it personally. Like, well, it was a time constraint. It was other things. It was, I'm not allowed to speak on certain issues. But ultimately, it's still, I didn't reach that student and they didn't get it.
Right.
And you take that, you internalize it.
Yeah, it's a heavy weight to carry when you put in so much effort to, scaffold or differentiate a lesson, and really try to get that point through to a student. But also when you just try to connect with them as a person and they're still not getting that point of what you're trying to do, is you're not at that point, you're not trying to teach them. You're just trying to learn about who they are as a person, and to better understand, who they are and what they want to accomplish. And that to me, I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, exactly. It is tough. And I don't have the perfect answer for it. You could try this program, you could try that program, try this approach, try that approach. Sometimes things just don't work, man.
No.
And it's something you have to accept, but don't accept. You know what I mean? Like, it's a part of it, but you still try. You don't just walk in thinking, well, okay, here's the kid. I'm not going to reach that kid, so I'm not going to try. You can't have that mentality. It's got to be, I'm going to put everything I've got into it to my last breath. And then at the end, at least I know I gave it everything I had.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, that's one thing I've always wondered about. And in talking with you who teaches high school, right, in comparison to me who teaches middle school, there's still a lot of similarities between the two. And this is one of the biggest ones, because to me, a middle schooler at the age that they are now, so for us, middle school is 6, 7, and 8, because I know that's different across the United States. And I work only with sixth graders. To me, they're still at that moldable age where you can really kind of help them best identify the path that is going to work for them through conversation, through just being there, being an ear to listen through as they're going through their obstacles and everything else. But you're going to have those kids who don't listen and who don't want to take advice, who think that, they no one is going to listen to them because the world's out to get them. So they automatically shut down, no matter how much you really kind of approach the situation with love and compassion and empathy. And I mean, do you see that as being almost the same in high school, that they're still moldable? Do you feel they're still kind of moldable and help guiding them into that path? Or are you now in high school more trying to keep them on the path they've already chosen and keep that excitement of life, basically?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
Dealing with a ninth grader, a freshman, you're essentially dealing with a middle school student. So
That's
there's
fair.
an interesting shift that happens about mid-year. So they come in kind of, you have the kids that are really overconfident, and a lot of times they're compensating for an internal fear. And then you have kids that are shy, where they wear their emotions on their sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got all that immaturity from 8th grade, and they come in with that. And then slowly throughout the year, they shift and they start maturing a little bit, and then they get ready to almost be sophomores, and they're a little more mature. But they're still definitely shaping and figuring out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole new set of things, because I mean, you remember what it was like when you went into high school. It's like, man, these are the same people I was in school with before, plus new
Right.
kids, and it's a whole new thing. So they're moldable, but some of them aren't, and some of them are really set in their ways, And there's some research to back this up. Certain kids that have certain behaviors at ages, like even in elementary, they're going to continue down that path. And so sometimes we're trying to break that habit. So for just an example, if a kid is prone to plagiarize on an essay, they're going to continue down that behavior because it's like their default. So like a quarterback's throwing motion, they could practice and practice and practice getting it perfect. But when they get in a game situation and the game is stressful and they get in that intense, about to get sacked situation, they default to their bad throwing technique. And it's the same thing in education. You have a kid who is on the right path, doing better, but then they get like overwhelmed with homework and sports, chores, maybe working a job, something like that. And that's something we have to compete with in high school. They're working jobs. And so they get stressed out, they're tired, and they default to the bad behaviors, taking the shortcuts. So it's a little bit of both, but also dealing with a whole new set of, man, they're almost young adults.
No, it's crazy. Because I coach high school football, so I get a little bit of the high school side of things, and I'll never be able to wrap my head fully around children. I asked my dad a lot because he was my high school English teacher. I said, was I really this way at that age? And, trying to understand better the child mentality. And it's pretty funny hearing the responses I get from my old man.
Oh, I bet.
He's like, hey, were you like that? Yes, I know I was. All right. So, Chad, we just completed our first year post-pandemic. First year back in the classroom. First of all, let's talk about pandemic teaching for you versus, if you want to speak briefly to the teaching that you had to do in the pandemic versus now coming back after 2 years or 18 months really of being online, kids staring at a computer screen with their cameras off mostly, and now coming back to an in-person reality of having to learn, and just kind of walk me through what you saw from both and the differences and maybe some of the extremes that you're seeing.
Yeah. Whew. So I remember the great lockdown of 2020, right? So we went on spring break, excuse me, and we got the call, you're not coming back. And it was, okay, what do I do? And so we immediately had to switch gears to become virtual teachers. And in a world where some of our students didn't have Wi-Fi. So we've got students that are going to a McDonald's or a Starbucks to try to get Wi-Fi. The district was handing out hotspots and different things like that. And some students I literally just didn't hear from.
Right.
I reached out to them, nothing. So it was just ghosted. So you have these students that you're seeing on a regular basis, all of a sudden, no contact with them. And then summertime, and I actually moved up with that class. So I was teaching freshmen, and I moved up with them to their sophomore year, and nothing. Some of them, for a whole year, I still never heard from them. And administrators went to their house and things like that, and they were able to make contact with them. Some of them moved out of the country. Some of them lost their houses. Wow. Parents divorced. Some of them lost their parents. I don't think people really understand outside of education just how bad it actually was. It was really bad. And the behaviors you mentioned, people having their cameras off. So we're talking about those Zoom meetings, and you're teaching class with Zoom. So you've got a monitor up with anywhere from 20 to 30 boxes, and they're just black boxes with names in them or numbers or nicknames.
Right.
And almost nobody turning the camera on. And so you're talking into a computer the whole time. And I don't mean like you and I are talking. I'm looking at you on the screen.
Right.
I'm looking at black screens in myself, and that was a psychological stressor for me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of teachers, it was, you are isolated while still trying to project as if you're not isolated. You're trying to give off the sense that you're in a classroom. So when we came back for that virtual teaching, it was really, really rough. And then we moved to hybrid learning, and the hybrid learning was probably the biggest challenge yet. It got worse, but at that point, it had been the biggest challenge. So you're sitting there in a classroom full of students that are all wearing a mask. You're wearing a mask. You're on screen, and all the computer screens are still blank.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids didn't log in at all. So we had three options. They could be in the classroom, they could be virtual synchronous, or they could be virtual asynchronous. And if they were asynchronous, that means they could complete their work at any time. So I literally never heard from these students, maybe an email here or there. And that was juggling all that at once. So trying to have classroom discussions with students that are in the classroom and students who are in. So you'd have weird things take place, like we're getting feedback from the microphones, we're getting echo, and then I'm constantly having to say, can you speak up again? Can you speak up? Can you speak up? Because I can't hear through the masks. I think I taught a whole 15-minute lesson one time on mute, and they didn't know I was talking because I had my mask on. And nobody said anything.
Oh, wow.
Nobody typed into the chat, nobody turned their microphone on, nothing. They just sat there. And at the end, and they said, "What are we doing?" And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And they said, "Well, we couldn't hear anything." And what do? Do you get mad? Of course you get mad, but
Well,
you
yeah.
can't just go off. How do you handle it? And so, well, now the class period's over. Well, I've got to readjust my entire lesson. So you're typing up an email or you're recording a lesson and sending it out.
Right.
And then it was just so much work. It was just so much work. So that was my pandemic experience. And then coming out of it, coming into this year, it seemed like nationwide everybody kind of had the same sentiment. We're thinking we're back to normal. The kids are going to be back in class. It's going to be great. And that lasted until the end of the first half hour. And it was like, oh no, this is way worse. They haven't been outside. They haven't been in public. They haven't been in a group setting. We haven't had this big of a group. Everybody's behavior's out of control. Everybody's organizational skills are off. It was just, everything just hit the fan all at once, and we couldn't find the switch to turn the fan off.
That's the best way to describe it. We could not find the switch to turn the fan off.
Yeah.
Dude, this year was rough. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I mean, I was excited. I mean, it was supposed to be my first full year in the classroom. We'll talk about that later. We ended up having, because of the teacher shortage and all of our teachers getting sick and our sub shortage, we had to take a week and go back to online learning in our district. It was tough, though. I mean, the students just didn't seem to grasp the idea that we're back in the classroom and there's a certain set of norms that you have to hit. Yeah. And I'm not talking like educational norms or, state norms or anything like that. I'm just talking behavioral, personal norms.
Just public behavior, just etiquette in general.
Yeah. I could go
strange.
On for hours with stories. I mean, I've already told you some of the stories that I had to deal with, and you've done the same. And I think you and I could actually write, well, I mean, you've already written a book. I think you and I could actually co-author a book about just this teaching year alone and just the struggles that teachers had to face.
Yeah, I got to be honest, man. I was one of those teachers who was ready to walk. Going into to the holiday break, I was ready to not return. I was ready to just go and breach a contract and resign. And I honestly, I really have to credit TikTok.
Interesting.
I think TikTok kind of saved me. So the one thing that I focused on in the classroom was establishing relationships. So I figured out in the first week or two that things were just falling apart, and it got really bad. My mental health issues they came to a head.
Yeah.
And so going into December, it was just disaster after disaster with this major death in the family. It hit everybody really hard. My curriculum had fallen apart. My plans had fallen apart. Everything was just a total mess. I was behind in everything, and I had to leave the state, and I didn't know when I was coming back. And I left my classroom, went into the hallway, and had a full-blown panic attack in the hallway in the middle of class. And that has never happened before. I mean, I've had panic attacks, but never like that.
Right.
And that's where I was. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. And then something really horrible happened to me right after the holiday break. And I had to go into therapy. And the only way that I was going to come out of this was going into therapy. And I decided, okay, I'm just going to focus on what I can. And so I boiled it down to the bare minimum in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And my TikTok, ironically, was taking off when I was at my absolute worst mental moment.
Bro, you were skyrocketing.
I remember texting you at the time. And I've told you, it's not for the internet, but I've told you a little bit about what was going on,
Right, right.
and that's when, I mean, I was going viral every day. One day I got 12,000 new followers in a single day. Was hitting millions of views. I was just, it was just going crazy. People are messaging me, asking me for advice. All this stuff's going on, and I'm like, I am falling apart, and people are coming to me for advice. Um,
Yeah,
and then I walk back.
I was just gonna ask you about that. How do you like? So, for those of you listening and watching, a quick little backstory. April 1st is really when we started seeing a huge jump in numbers, a huge spike in numbers on our
Yeah,
TikToks. And it started with me, and then you were giving me grief about it. But then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 of your videos caught fire. And then
yeah.
you just started and you and I were just neck and neck, skyrocketing. And then you just kept going. Just, I mean, it was like, if I could show some of the text messages from that time or the DMs between Chad and I, it was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was all of a sudden, are we famous?
They were like, what? What?
What
And
is this? What do I do?
and like getting all these messages and like listening to Chad and watching. Number one, guys, if you haven't watched any of Chad on TikTok, those of you on YouTube can see his TikTok username directly underneath of him, that teacher guy. For those of you who are listening, you need to go out and listen and look at some of his videos, because when this guy talks about building a culture and building a relationship with his students, you can see it in the videos, especially the ones where the students are involved. They love this man, and they know that this man cares about them and has nothing but their best interest in heart, because he's gone through that time to really build that culture within his classroom, that understanding. And I'm going to be using a lot of his videos as motivation for me in this upcoming year to really build a better classroom culture, in which my students kind of had the same reaction as his did. But go check him out if you haven't already. Do it. And that's a teacher directed order.
I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. But I was gonna ask, because I knew you were getting all these messages from teachers.
Yeah.
So what does that do to you at this point, where you're talking about struggling and being in a very a difficult spot in life, and now you have multiple teachers messaging you out of nowhere and like, bro, give me advice, XYZ, this, that, and the other thing. What does that do to you? How do you handle that in that current mental state that you're dealing with?
Well, imposter syndrome was through the roof. I was definitely feeling it, and I kept telling my wife, if they knew, they wouldn't be asking me for advice. And she
Right.
was like, well, they're asking because they're going through what you're going through. And it was like, whoa, okay. And I remember talking to my therapist, and she said, who better? Who is in a better position to help these teachers than someone who understands exactly what they're going through and is dealing with it? She said, you went through these things. You're going through this so that you can help them. And it's kind of put things in perspective. So, okay, I don't feel like I have total control, but then I heard reclaim your breath, and it was, all right, I'm here. This is where I am. So I have two options. I can delete my TikTok. I can disappear off the face of the planet, and I can pretend it never happened, and I can just go back in my classroom and do what I do. I can walk away from education altogether, or I can choose to embrace the platform I've been given, and I can reclaim it one step at a time. And that's what I did. And something unbelievable was happening in the school. First of all, I was on the For You page for all my students. Students were asking me for selfies in the hallway.
You were on the For You page for some of my students.
It was so much fun, right? And it was like, people are like, you're always talking about your TikTok. I'm like, no, I'm not. You brought it up. I never brought it up. You literally walked in and said, Mr. Pettit, you were on my For You page. But they started giving me ideas for TikToks, and they started, hey, Mr. Pettit, was that TikTok about me? And I'm like, maybe. you know? And so it created a whole new level of relationship building. And I I had a yet another horrible anxiety attack, and I just decided, okay, I'm just going to talk about it because my students,
Yeah.
it happened in class. Like
Right.
they had to go get help. They had to go get somebody. And I came back and I was like, all right, guys, here's what it is. And I had so many students that were like, we didn't know adults went through this too.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was, he's just like us. He's going through it and he's still maintaining, he's still able to do these things. And so when teachers were asking me for advice, I just treated them kind of like my students. I just said
Yeah.
to myself, this is somebody who just needs help. Um, and we're just messed up people helping messed up people sort through the mess.
Absolutely. Messed up people helping messed up people. I like it. Man, it's been a wild ride, dude. And at the end of the day, I just want you to know I'm so happy that our paths crossed. And I really wish I could remember what it was that officially got us to cross paths. I could look back at all of our videos together and still have no idea what the click was, but whatever it was, it worked. And you are, from my standpoint, such an amazing teacher. You are not only just because you're a teacher, right? And you understand the content that you're teaching, but like I was saying earlier, your ability to connect with the students and create that safe environment where they can come in and know 100% Mr. Pettit's got my back. And in high school, that's one of the hardest things, especially as a younger high schooler. One of the hardest things to do is to understand that teachers will protect you. They will take care of you. And not just from the physical side of things, right? As we look at all the tragedies that have happened this year, but they're there for you mentally because at the end of the day, we understand. And watching you kind of transform your videos to really highlight that, it really resonates with me. And so I'm proud to know you, Chad.
Same. I'm beyond thrilled to have you as a friend. And yeah, I wish I knew like what was the one video where we really connected. I have no idea.
Mm-mm.
I just know we started talking back and forth and everything. But you know, you've been an inspiration to me. We're gonna talk about it on the next episode. Your story of how you became the Mr. Collie on TikTok and you know you deal with a lot of things in your day to day life and you keep through with such a positive attitude and your stance on ending bullying and things like that and your willingness to say what needs to be said. You know, it's been an inspiration to me and I couldn't possibly be more thrilled to have you as a friend and just the community on TikTok is it's not Facebook. It's not Twitter.
No.
It's a community of people who are really trying to support one another for the most
Absolutely.
part.
For the most, but yeah, you're going to have those trolls. I mean, like you do everywhere, but it's a lot easier to take care of the trolls on TikTok than it is in some other platforms. So,
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate the kind words. I'm really looking forward to talking with you more in our next episode. But before I let you go, Chad, you and I both know that the audiences that we're going to reach are not just teachers, that we're going to have a lot of people who are possibly interested in becoming teachers in their future. So with that, what would be your advice? What would be your advice for those looking into the teaching career?
So I kind of look at that as there are the people who are getting ready to graduate and maybe they're finishing up their certification program, or people that are getting ready to possibly go into college or go into a education program.
Mhm.
But regardless, to those people, I would say really search inside, do some soul searching, figure out what it is you're passionate about. If you're passionate about educating people, if you're passionate about empowering people, then those are the right things. If you're passionate about money, this is not the career for you.
Right.
If you're passionate, now you can have that as a side hustle if you're passionate about both. But if you're looking to come into education to be some edu celebrity, stay away. Find something else. But at the same time, that's the inspirational part. Like really figure out if this is what you're passionate about. But then practical. get in some schools, and I recommend that you go into elementary, middle, and high school
Right.
and college and observe all those levels and try different classes. Observe science, observe English, observe math, observe the elementary teacher who's got all the subjects. Get in there, see if it's really what you, and don't, like, not one. If you can make it to a school where you can, if you could possibly observe one school for like a whole week, that would be great, because then you see a lot more. You see the behavior outside school. You see the behavior before class, in between, some of the hallway stuff that happens. But get into a school and find out if it's the environment you want to be in, because I'm telling you, it's not what you think. Just because you were in school doesn't mean you know what being a teacher's like. Just because you've observed a doctor doesn't mean you're qualified to be a surgeon.
Right. Right. Perfect advice. And I couldn't have said it any better myself, man. Hey, episode 1. We got it.
In the books.
We got it. I want to thank everybody on YouTube for hanging out with us, and those of you listening on our listening platforms, thank you. It's been a pleasure doing this for you. Looking forward to bringing you episode 2. Make sure you stand by, and we'll get all that information to you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and it's time to reclaim education. Hey, Brett and I really appreciate you hanging out with us today. We hope this is helpful for you. We hope it helps you reclaim your passion for education one breath at a time. You can find more information about us, the show notes, and some additional resources at educationreclaimed.com.